First item up, roll call. Ms. Kaufman?
Daniel Courtney,
Present.
Bill Lee, Liz Hawk,
Michelle Hazen. Michael Hill.
Here.
Rachel Iannelli.
Here.
Azza Kamal. Bridget Murphy.
Here.
Jay Reeves.
Here.
Bill Warner.
Here.
You have quorum.
Okay. Next item up would be approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
I'll second that motion. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. Okay, next item up, public comment. Is there anyone here to speak on a project that's not already on the agenda?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. My name is Robert Pierce, and I about 2 months ago got a letter from my insurance company saying, "Dear Mr. Pierce, we have completed our annual review, et cetera, et cetera. Following property, this means that coverage will not be provided after the non-renewal effective date and time stated above due to the roof age not meeting underwriting eligibility guidelines." I've got a handful of houses, small handful of houses in the University Heights North District, all of which have metal roofs on them, except for this one house that has shingle roofs on it. And my insurance agent informed me that because the roof is 15 years or older, I'm being discontinued. They could be 30-year shingles, doesn't matter. 15 years, you're out. We're discontinuing. So this was, like I said, about 2 months ago. So I started shopping around for roofers, got some prices, found a roofer that hopefully will do a good job this time. And they sent me a COA to fill out, which I did, to give them the opportunity to speak with the Historic Preservation Liaison. And I thought things were going smoothly until I got a phone call this afternoon informing me that, this can't be staff approved, this has to go before the board because it's a metal roof. And I'd been working all day out in the sun, and I was not in the best of moods, and I was a little irritated, and I was a little bit short to begin with, and I hope she will forgive me. This is a bad situation for people to be in. We're having roofs that they spent good money on that they're having to be forced to tear off because of insurance regulations these days. And now I'm kind of down to the wire where obviously I couldn't get on tonight's agenda. I can be on next month's agenda, which gives me about 2 weeks before my insurance gets canceled, presuming you would approve that on July the 5th, which I'll be back on July the 5th, requesting your approval for that. This is having to tear shingles off a roof, good shingles, throw them in a landfill, filling up a landfill, using up more natural resources to make up new roof shingles so they can be put on and then torn off 15 years from now is a very bad situation. And I want to put roofs on my houses that are durable, they're sustainable, and they uphold, they last. And I have to say, I don't think it's right that people should have to come before a board to ask for permission to do something like that. I think that is something that should be considered staff approvable. I know what your regulations are, I know what your guidelines are. I think those might need to be reconsidered. And I'll see you on July the 5th. Thank you.
Robert,
Yes, sir.
just share a few things with you.
Yeah, sure.
I've been through this too, except with my metal roof. And my understanding is it doesn't matter if it's a shingle roof or a metal roof, they're wanting to take it off every 15 to 20 years.
I actually gave Kathleen, and I'm sorry, I've already forgotten your last name, a copy of a letter that my insurance agent sent me this afternoon that she had sent to someone else who is in a HOA, no, yeah, homeowners association.
Right.
And he had to have permission from their board to put a metal roof in his neighborhood. And in that letter, she said that metal roofs, well, actually, I say 15 years. She told me that in some counties it's 10 years for shingle roofs. And for metal roofs, they're saying 20 to 30.
20.
And I don't, fortunately, I mean, all my houses all have metal roofs on them in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of at a loss as to what to suggest or what to recommend because the insurance companies are not going to change. Lobbying, at the state level isn't going to change anything. This is something that kind of has to be addressed on a practical level, in my opinion.
Well, this is actually state regulations. And I got it from my insurance company as they were canceling me because I was looking at putting a standing seam roof on it. And they said 20 years max. That's the underwriters that's the problem.
In any case, yeah,
Bill, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I had a presentation today at my Coldwell Banker sales meeting from one of the insurance companies in town. And what is in the throes of occurring, not the case right now, is to change the 10-year rule that some are going by to 15. But 15 is the going number. Doesn't make any difference if you got clay tile, standing seam, pressed metal shingle, or anything else. Your company can, unless you have a letter identifying that there's 5 years or more life left in the roof, they can cancel you. Doesn't have anything to do with this board.
I'm just relaying
Recognize
what my insurance
that in
agent
the
told
area
me.
that you are in, there are numerous examples of metal roof of every description. And so, even though this is not an item before the board, I would, if I can, move staff approval on your application.
Michelle?
I'd just like to comment, obviously, as a realtor too, this has been an issue for lots of people. I'm facing it on one of my own rental properties. It's interesting because it's really created a lot of problems for lots of people. It was one of the statistics I read, which was sort of crazy, is that it said out of the payouts that the insurance companies make, 80% of the payouts go to attorneys. So, obviously we have a bigger problem, especially in Florida, but that number, I mean, if that number's correct, and it was 80%, that's a huge, massive number. And so, I don't know how we fix this because tearing off a perfectly good roof to put something on, something new on is just a waste. It's things going in the landfill and, I hate to see it. But as a board here, I understand why we need to make those approvals. But we can certainly talk about if there's anything we can do to identify that, and I don't know what we can do, but I'm sorry you're going through that.
Just for the public record, one of the figures that came forward at midday today was that 78% of the litigation in regard to roofs nationally has occurred in the state of Florida. 78%. And out of that 78%, there's some 25 attorneys that are related to the vast majority of that. So this is not a unique problem. This is a pervasive and very troubling problem that we recognize.
All right.
I don't have any great suggestions.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
My question is kind of, sorry. My question is kind of maybe towards you and maybe towards Ms. Kaufman. Now, in a situation like this, can we as the board possibly bring this to a vote tonight to kind of have him go back to you and then have the roof just approved on a staff basis? Because I mean, because I'm going to tell you right now, given the current situation with insurance companies here in the state of Florida and how the system is entirely predatory, in my opinion, if we as a board have the ability to make somebody's life here in our community a little bit easier, I think we should definitely explore that option. So that's kind of like what my question is, James. It's to you and Kathleen.
Well, that was the motion Bill was making.
Okay, I didn't know if we were able to make that motion now, or we had to wait after the public hearings.
Well, let's see. Kathleen?
So I think you as a board have the authority to kind of make any motion you want. I would just, caution you that if you start to do that and you circumvent the public hearing process for an application that has already been submitted to staff, then everyone else is going to want you to do the same thing, and it will definitely erode the process. I think the better way to go about it is to hear his item in July, and he has a couple weeks after that before his insurance is actually dropped. So he has some time there.
Yeah.
And I think that this issue and we're only talking about the roof applications here generally. So maybe the board can think about it for a little bit, and maybe at the next meeting we can come up with some better solutions for how staff can maybe deal with some of these applications.
Robert, a question.
Yes,
Question for you. Do you have a roofer lined up already?
I do.
I was going to say good, because when I went to mine with the same situation, they said it'll be 6 months before they could even talk to me.
And I appreciate your tack, and I think it's appropriate. I appreciate also the gestures, the offer. I don't want to get emotional. So that helps. And I'll see you in July.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
Let me,
Thank-
if I may, I'm only proposing this in this instance, not as a precedent, that this particular item be able to go for staff approval. Anything else that comes up, we deal with individually, not establishing this as a procedure or precedent.
Yeah. If I may, we had kind of like compromising approaches that we used to undertake as the commissioner in San Antonio, where a subset of the board could have a look at the proposal, whether it's a design or a roof change, as kind of design review, group before the item comes to the agenda, but the item has to come as part of the agenda to be voted on. So if that's the case, maybe we can look at your house and location, just to look at what we look at in terms of compliance with metal or shingle. And that's before the July 5th. Anytime from now to July 5th. So just, and then it will come to the board as part of the agenda. But just to have a look at the situation with the actual.
That was my presumption when I came here tonight, that would be the course. I just kind of wanted to prep everybody,
Okay.
if you will. All right,
Thank
thank
you
you,
so much,
real
Robert.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
course, Mr.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else with public comment?
I just want to speak on something you talked about. They did pass that statute last week where you can, James Witten, I was commenting on that insurance regulation. So they did pass a bill last week, and the governor signed a law where you can get 20 years out of your shingle roof now. Any policy signed after July 1st of 2022, of course, so all upcoming policies. With that being said, the bill that was passed a year ago offered a proration on replacement of your roof based on the actual, whatever it was, whether it was shingles, metal, tile. And we expect that they'll be the same as far as renewal of policy. So we do expect that metal roof will get more than 20 years. It may be 25, it may be 30, But I can attest that I've had well over hundreds and hundreds of calls about, oh, I'm getting canceled.
Oh, yeah.
And 99% of them are shingle roofs. We haven't seen any metals come through. And I understand, Mr. Chair, that you may have yours, but yours is 80 or 90 years old, probably put on in the late 30s.
Probably.
So there's a little bit of a difference there. But with that being said, we do expect that there will be a difference between shingle and metal as far as the insurance company is concerned, just as far as what we've seen and as well as the other bills and statutes that have been signed into law.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, all right, nobody else? Let's move along to the public hearing portion. Ms. Coughlin?
So if you all are speaking on behalf of an item tonight at a public hearing, can you stand and raise your right hand?
I don't hear well, so I have to.
That's okay. Do you affirm that the testimony you're going to give to the Historic Preservation Board tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. I don't think we have any requests for deferrals, so I'll continue to public hearing number 1, Mr. Chair, if that's
Yes,
okay with you.
please do.
Okay, public hearing 1. This is petition COA 22-00037. This is certificate of appropriateness to remove a brick chimney not visible from the street. Address is 630 Northeast 6th Avenue. This is in the Northeast Historic District, also known as the Duck Pond. It is a contributing structure. Property appraiser says it's a 1929. We know that is not accurate because this structure shows up in the 1913 Sanborn map. So it is at least from 1913. The property located at 630 Northeast 6th Avenue is a contributing structure in the Northeast Historic District. Frame vernacular home features a side gable roof with composition shingle and a full-length integrated porch that is partially enclosed with screen on the eastern half. The building is a stunning example of early Gainesville architecture reflective of the homes being built in the city's early pioneer days. Simple porch columns sit on top of square brick piers, and siding on the original portion of the house is Dutch lap or drop siding. The lower portion of the porch and the lower half of what appear to be a rear addition is clad in shingle siding. So this applicant actually appeared in front of this board in November of 2021 with a request to install a metal roof. That project was denied, and the applicant is preparing to install a composition shingle roof. Has that already been done? The roof? The roofer has inspected the chimney and has indicated that the chimney is in a dangerous deteriorated condition. The applicant would like to remove this chimney as the fireplace is no longer in use. Our evaluation is as such. Chimneys are an important character-defining feature. The removal of such is generally discouraged, as noted in our historic preservation, rehabilitation, and design guidelines. It's actually page 93. This particular structure retains much of its historic fabric, but the chimney is an interior chimney, meaning it's not on the exterior on the end of the house. It is not of distinctive design. It is not visible from the street. The applicable standards from the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation that apply to this project are standards 2, 5, and 6. Standard 2 talks about how the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved, and the alteration, including removal of features and spaces that characterize that property, should be avoided. So when at all possible, the character-defining features do need to be retained because they contribute to the overall integrity of the historic structure. This would be especially true for exterior end chimneys, or chimneys that are highly visible, or chimneys that are of a distinctive design. This particular chimney is not any of those. Standard 5 talks about the distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques, or examples of craftsmanship, and these things should be preserved. Again, this chimney is not particularly distinctive and is not an example of exceptional craftsmanship. Standard 6 talks about when deteriorated historic features should be repaired rather than replaced. When replaced, the new feature shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. The best solution would be to replace or repair the chimney as designed if there were still a workable fireplace within the structure that would necessitate the chimney. This chimney is not very distinctive. So staff recommends that application COA 22-00037 be approved with the following conditions. Condition 1, further evidence must be provided that the interior fireplace is no longer existing or in working condition.
Okay. All right, any board comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the chimney appears to be a flue chimney, not a chimney in association with a fireplace. 16-inch square chimney is a 12 to 16-inch chimney is typically just a flue chimney, not a
Fireplace.
major architectural element.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? Yes?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I looked at the street view in, before coming to the board today. It's barely visible. It's fine. I even have no problem approving without the stipulation.
Okay. All right.
I have one question. Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
Michael.
And maybe this might be directed more towards the applicant. Is there a fireplace down there in there, or it's just a hollow chimney? Like there's no actual fireplace? Because I
wouldn't support a fireplace.
it wouldn't support a
There-
fireplace.
Let's let the applicant.
There is no fireplace.
Right.
I've been in that home since I was 2 years old.
Right.
My brothers and sisters, my father bought that home in 1963. My mother recently passed, and I've been there taking care of her. That that chimney has not been used in 40 years.
Yeah.
Okay, it started out when I was a small child as a kerosene heater in that dining room, which was the only heat in that home.
Right. Right.
And it's not been used for 40 years, and it's not gonna be used, and it's causing me an issue with insurance just to have a chimney on a lighter wood house that was built in 29. So it's gotta go,
Yeah.
one way or the other, or I'm not gonna be able to buy insurance.
Okay.
They've got a problem with it, and it's not being used, and it's
Yeah.
not gonna be used,
Right.
and I own the home now. My name is Alan Willis, and I've been in the home since I was 2 years old. So you're welcome to it. Also, we're a long-standing family in this town. My father started the Gainesville Ice Company and sold it out in the 80s. We have been long-time residents in this town. And if I could just let you look at this.
Yeah.
I know this was already ruled on, but my neighbor, which house is 10 feet from mine, has a 5B10 metal roof. And I was not privy at the meeting when it was decided I couldn't have one. But you can stand at my front door and see 5 roofs toward the duck pond area that have 5B metal tin. In 1920, shingles were invented. They weren't worth a crap in the 20s, so the house probably had a metal roof to start with. And I want to go back with a metal roof. I am restoring the home. I'm restoring it as original. I'm not changing the windows, although it would be a monstrous savings to me,
Yeah.
because the power bill is $400 a month.
All right. Well, just so you know, we're not talking about the roof material
Well,
tonight.
I'm not through addressing it though. If I have to come back and do that again, it was my understanding from my roofer that it didn't want
Mr. Willis,
to be heard again.
Communications is asking if you would stand in front of the little mic, please.
Well, I'm quite sure that everybody can hear me, but no problem. I'm, like I said, a longtime resident of this town. We've owned this home a long time. We've helped build this town. Most of the roofs in that whole neighborhood were metal in 1929 when that house was built. And I am asking at some point for a reconsideration that I can put it back and have the option that the people that built it in 1929 had. I'm gonna keep the home looking beautiful, I promise you, just like it originally was. The shingle roof was my home and the metal roof is the neighbor. Sorry if I took too much time.
No, you're-
Well, we're not discussing it.
Move to approve.
yeah,
All right, let's get back on the subject of the chimney.
sure. Yeah, no.
Approve.
Go ahead, yeah.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
All right. There's no public comment, so,
You might have something.
oh, you have something to add to the chimney?
So I guess it's more of a question of we're not allowed to represent cases even if we weren't the original contract to bring a case forward. Is that correct?
What?
Because I was not the original representative back in November. So I don't understand.
Yes, I remember.
What?
He wants to know what is the procedure for rehearing a
Once an
COA.
item has been decided on this board, you can't resubmit for the same thing.
Even if representation changes, there's no.
Representation has now changed, so
I was
that's,
not the original
Really up-
representative in November.
that's up to you, Mr. Chair.
But he is the owner is the same. The fact,
Actually, the original owner was Mr. Willis's mother,
okay.
who has now since passed away, and Alan Willis is now.
So owner changed and representation changed.
That would be back to you then.
I think the fact that ownership has changed is more important than the
Yeah.
roof representative.
Yeah, who the roofing contractor is makes no difference. But what I was trying to get to is the owner is in fact different technically now. Then I would say, yes, it can probably come back as a COA.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Chair, sorry, you still need to take a vote on the motion?
Yes. Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, it carries for removal of the chimney. All right, thank you.
Public hearing number 2. This is petition COA 22-00050, a COA to install 2 new egress doors in the public space at the old Depot building in Depot Park. The old Gainesville Depot building was built in 1907, and the owner is City of Gainesville. The Depot building is the central feature for Depot Park, a contemporary public green space that serves as Gainesville's central park, complete with walking and bike paths, picnic pavilions, playgrounds, event spaces, and restaurants. That historic Depot building was rehabilitated in 2012 by the Gainesville Community Redevelopment Agency. It was listed in the National Register of Historic Places on November 22nd, 1996. At that time of designation, the old Gainesville Depot consisted of a 1-story freight section with offices, storage rooms, and a 1.5-story passenger section. It was in continuous use as the depot from 1907 when it was built until the 1930s. It's constructed of heart pine, and the structure retains much of its original interior and exterior materials. Building is now the location for event space, bathrooms, facilities, storage, and 2 restaurants. As this building is used for those events and gatherings and other public uses, we have to go through the fire inspections on a regular basis. And this was recently completed for this property. It was determined that two new egress doors are required in order for the building to pass the life safety measures. The city architect, Sarit Sela, and myself, we met fire officials on site to review possible door locations. And the final locations were selected were based on where they would have the least impact on the historic fenestration and original materials. One of the new doors will be on the south, nearest the restroom, and one of the doors will be on the north. Both of these doors are within that larger event space where they expect bigger amounts of people for events. The new doors will match an existing hidden door by using the horizontal clapboard siding on the exterior to match the existing historic siding. One of these doors already exists, and so on the exterior, it's very hard to see that door because they've run the wood cladding across the face of the door. Staff evaluation is as such. Life safety measures are not really a building code item that historic preservation standards and guidelines can circumvent. When deemed necessary, these projects must try to minimize the damage and/or the impact to the historic structure. And the applicable Secretary of the Interior standards for this case are 2, 5, and 9. Standard 2 is that the historic character of a property shall be retained. We are trying to do that with the use of the wood on the exterior of the door. Standard 5, distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property shall be preserved. It's not really possible to preserve that historic wall fabric where the new doors have to be installed, but that's what you gotta do. Standard 6, deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. The new features, the emergency egress doors, will match the existing historic material in design and color on the exterior sides of the door. So staff recommends that COA 22-00050 be approved with the following condition. I just really want to make sure that to the greatest extent possible, that clapboard siding that's going to be used as the facing is milled to closely match the historic profile of the siding that's already on the wall and not just a siding that you buy. And that's it.
Okay. All right, questions or comments of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Yes.
I'm just curious that if this, all this was rehabbed and done a long time ago, why does it come up now that they need these new doors?
Because, sorry, Mr. Chair, I can answer that if you'd
Sure,
like me to.
please do.
Since the time it was originally rehabbed, it did not have the size restaurants it does in there now, and they were not hosting as big of events as they are in there now.
Yeah.
It's all based on the number of people.
Okay, so it's the fire code that how many people they're allowed to have in the space, and that's shifted over time.
Yes. And so the original restaurant used to be kind of not in that big space, but the little piece out at the end, and
Yeah.
now there's a second restaurant in the bigger piece of the building.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's use change. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, well, we have a motion and a second. You want to do a roll call on this one since it's city?
Daniel Courtney,
Aye.
Bill Hayes,
Aye.
Michelle Hazen. Aye. Michael Hill,
Aye.
Rachel Iannelli,
Aye.
Isaac Kamal,
Aye.
Jay Reeves,
Aye.
Phil Warner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Okay, that brings us to board business.
I did email your items of interest, and it was a couple weeks after the May meeting, so you kind of got all up to date, but I'll send you another one in a few weeks for June stuff. And I kind of feel like it's a little bit better to stay engaged with you throughout the month, so maybe I'll just continue, because you get inundated with stuff in
Yeah.
your email at board meeting time, so maybe I'll just kick items of interest to the middle of the month for you.
Okay,
If that's okay with you.
that's a good suggestion.
And then I'm really excited. I only made one copy. We can pass it down. It's only a couple of pages that I thought were relevant. And I'm going to email you the full 70-page nomination. But GSA, Government Services, incredibly, it is a wonderful thing. So they wrote a National Register nomination for the federal building, United States Post Office, and courthouse. And the reason this is such an incredible thing is this is a modern building. So we're starting to get to see more and more of these things come through. If you have any, if you have the time and inclination, this is 2 pages and a couple of photographs of a much bigger nomination. It's very well written, it's very well researched, and it is a really good example of a very well done National Register nomination. So we're super excited, and they notify us, and I'm supposed to notify you as part of that federal process. So we're very excited that this building is being proposed for designation, and hopefully it might spur conversation about some of the more modern Alachua County buildings and the city buildings that are in downtown to consider going the same route. Last that I have for you, but certainly not least, I emailed it to you, but it's also at the back of your packet, is a abbreviated events list for the upcoming Juneteenth festivities. If you actually go to the website, there's stuff happening almost every day this month, a lot of it at the local library branches. So the libraries are having different craft days for kids. They're really trying to kind of push the education of what this Emancipation Day really means and that sort of thing. But the Cotton Club naturally is doing quite a few activities. The free concerts in Bo Diddley Park are reflective of the month-long celebrations. So there's a lot going on. I only gave you kind of like the bigger events and highlights, but if that's of any interest to you, you can go find it all online, City of Gainesville's website.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I could, I just want to point out and put on public record that I think what's happening with the city's journey to Juneteenth celebration is really unprecedented, right? It's a celebration that is not just recognizing June 19th, which is the national day, but it also is a celebration that begins with Florida's Emancipation Day on May 20th. So I think it's really cool. I want to give the city a public shout out for doing this event, and I hope that more city governments will follow the lead of Gainesville. So I'm really honored to be a neighbor of the city, and the fact that we're celebrating this month-long celebration is really cool.
Okay, thank you. All right. Yes.
I just want to add to Mr. Courtney's comment because it's so interesting. There's a lady in Tallahassee, Miss Altamise Barnes, who is a whirlwind of a lady, a super powerhouse, African-American historian and advocate and preservationist. And she will beat it into you that for Florida, May 20th is like the big day.
Yeah.
But so I think I agree. I think it's really cool that it's like journey to Juneteenth.
Okay. All right. Next, that brings us to member comments. Anyone? Bill.
I would like for you all to know that I attended the workshop on affordable housing on Wednesday evening, and I was very distressed to hear the consultants from Atlanta identify historic preservation generally and historic districts in particular as obstacles to affordable housing. Essentially, the consultant has taken the tack that every house, whether it's in a historic district or not, should be carved into as many 3 or more units, at least 3, and without any regard for the integrity, good design, or the integrity of the existing structure. I think we have a challenge before us since this is something that the city commission seems to be moving toward.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, to
Yes.
Vice Chair Warner's comment. Yeah, actually, I've heard something along the similar lines. Mike talks about preservation, and you know, I'm going to say this, and you know, maybe some people might have some questions, but have we considered reaching out to the University of Florida's sector that kind of deals with preservation and stuff? Because, you know, I mean, it's a university, and you know, there's a lot of qualified experts. There's some on this board. Dr. Kamal, I'm looking at you. I don't mean to call you out. I don't mean to sound like negative, but you know, is there anything that we could possibly do? Maybe talking to people on that end, because there might be, because yeah, you know, you're absolutely right, Bill. That's an issue, and people. There's a lot of people that say, oh yeah, historic preservation is definitely like counteractive to affordable housing, and you know, I've been scrutinized for it too about, oh well, you know, you want to make it all like, you know, unaffordable. And I'm like, well, yeah, but there's definitely ways. And I know that, you know, we have the university there. You know, we need to call our colleagues in there and say, hey, what have you guys found? Have you guys done any research on this, you know? So, yeah, that's just my comment.
Okay.
I want to add to my comments that, in my opinion, much of this discussion about affordable housing is not about affordable housing.
Yeah.
That is largely about multifamily housing at fair market rates. And very, very little, if any, is about truly affordable housing and affecting that objective. I think the objective is perfectly appropriate, but I think to turn every single family home site into a minimum of 3 units does not achieve the objective of having more affordable housing.
Okay, well, okay, Michelle.
I don't know if any of you read, there's a recent article from Jason Sanchez in the Sun, and he actually did a really nice job. There were photos, it was in the Gainesville Sun, but photos. He was talking about the historic districts and actually how they actually were early on. Actually, we have so many duplexes, triplexes, accessory dwelling units, and so a lot of the land in the districts is already being really well used. I mean, we have very small lots in our historic districts. I mean, you know, think about Pleasant Street, everybody's crunched in, and even from the, you know, setbacks and different things, everything was just sort of crunched in there. So
Well, that's because we didn't have single-family zoning.
That's right.
The historic districts were done. Yeah,
so I
that's
mean,
the
I
nature of
think,
it.
you know, while, I mean, certainly I think the preservation guidelines, you know, will hopefully help to maintain these neighborhoods. More and more people, I mean, if there's room to put an ADU or something, I think, I like that that's been loosened a bit, but, you know, I definitely want to see our designations. You know, certainly we don't want things being torn down and then, you know, hey, we're putting up a quadruplex here. If there's infill opportunities, you know, maybe that could be the right move. It's unfortunate that some of our neighborhoods, you know, aren't districts at this point in time because
Those are the ones in danger.
those are the ones that are really going to take the brunt of it, I think, so.
Yeah. Keep in mind, we don't have that many large lots in any of our historic districts because we're downtown neighborhoods. And the other problem, and not the other issue, is the fact we have guidelines and we have the board for protection, but there are a lot of places in Gainesville that don't have that situation. Okay, and I would urge you to follow the meetings as they're going on, which they are currently going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to that I would add that back in the 60s and 70s, there were those who were rapidly carving up the houses in the duck pond into multifamily units by porch enclosures, additions, without any regard to the character of the existing structure. And that's really what gave rise to Historic Gainesville, Inc. in 1972.
Yeah.
And here we go again.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, if I may, I appreciate all your points, and I agree with Michelle. Also, historic preservation, historic districts cannot be looked at as just holistic, just a neighborhood. And I'm kind of like surprised that a consultant for the city is saying historic preservation is a hurdle for affordability, because there are options within. There are probably vacant buildings that could be maintained and being prioritized. So it's all about prioritize for lower income folks. It's all about alignment between program, and I remember we talked about the revisiting of the design guidelines and how this overlap with other large city initiatives. One of them is definitely the affordable housing. Accessory dwellings has been used heavily in large cities to be set aside option for lower income people. Shotgun houses are being actually refurbished and reused for, so whatever available and whatever there need to be looked at with a much more precision. So that comes the GIS work that needs to happen. Maybe that's something that could be invested in and looked at, and maybe kind of a taxonomy of potential could be retrieved and could be communicated with a consultant. But it's never been a hurdle. Cultural sustainability that brought about by historic districts are valuable in all cities and should be preserved all the time.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say,
Yes.
I think you all make great points, and I agree. I think I respectfully disagree with the consultant's sentiments, but I do understand how some people could draw these erroneous conclusions just based off of conversations that I've had with people who've lived in who live in historic neighborhoods, or who have lived in historic neighborhoods, and I've just from my short time here on the board, I've seen situations where had not this board voted in the right way, these things would be happening. So for example, Dr. Kamal, you mentioned like shotgun houses being preserved, right? But we've also seen situations where people want to demolish shotgun houses and then build two-story, right, homes that will definitely price marginalized people or the people who traditionally lived in these historic neighborhoods, right? So I think it's a balance. I appreciate the expertise and the information that's shared on this board, because that's the information that needs to be disseminated to the community so that community members can have a complete perspective of what historic preservation looks like, what these designations look like, and then communicate that to other members, right? Because a lot of times you have a few people who are leading the community who have a short-sighted understanding of what we do, of what historic preservation is, and then right, there are obstacles that are presented, but it's only because they don't understand how to circumvent those obstacles. So I think just providing the neighborhoods and the community with more information regarding what is happening, and then also us doing what we pledged to do by looking at the guidelines. We talked about, just how we can make those adjustments or what adjustments need to be made. So I think, I'm appreciative of being on this board, but I can also understand, right, like how some people can draw that sort of conclusion or come to those ideas.
Okay.
I just want to clarify, and because we don't want to shame anyone that I wasn't on the board before, that shotgun demolition is a disaster, but it might be a situation where the lots were underutilized and they want to build at a higher density. So in these cases, I've seen also situations where shotgun houses have been already kind of moved, and we've seen all historic homes being moved around city many times, that they could be grouped in kind of a neighborhood or a segment of the neighborhood that could be just dedicated at a higher density for lower income people. So, we're open to discuss all of this with the affordable housing consultant as well.
Yeah, we should definitely table this more often.
Okay, all right, anybody else? All right.
I have one comment, please.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This is a great conversation. We do need to discuss how we disseminate information about what it is this board is doing, and that we're not just a roadblock to progress kind of thing. And I did want to point out, I found it quite disturbing that the plan board for the proposed 12-story building on 2nd Avenue and 10th Street, that as that meeting progressed and there was discussion about our 100-foot boundary off of that historic district, they repeatedly referred to the imaginary blue line on the map which is our buffer zone. It's not imaginary, it's real. And so, you know, as much as I think that we need to, you know, foster the sense of creativity and that, you know, the meshing of the new and progress with the old and preservation, we also can't tolerate language about our board and about what our job is here that sort of diminishes it and misrepresents it, I think, basically. So thank you for the record, yeah.
Very good comments. Yes, Kathleen.
Following that comment, I would like to thank the board members that sat through that very lengthy plan board meeting in order to provide some testimony. It was really great and I think very well received. So we just need to stay diligent on top of this project, and you know, it's now moving to City Commission. And I forgot I had these. The Division of Historical Resources is doing a new initiative where they are trying to get lay people and the public to help identify historic cemeteries. Especially African American cemeteries usually are largely unmarked and have been forgotten or have been, you know, just left to become overgrown. So these are just little postcards that you can mail back in to the division, and it's literally just, hey, tell us where you think there is one and what's the nearest cross street, because who knows, that might be one that they had not previously identified. I think already they've gotten about 400 new Florida Master Site File forms out of these things. So if you'd like any of these, take as many or pass them on to people that you think can help out on that effort. That's all. Thank you. And if you're about to adjourn,
Yes.
just please stay seated for a photo because almost all of you are here.
Okay.
I would add to the comments that it was a very effective presentation to the plan board,
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, it was.
and my own personal appreciation for those who spoke.
Okay. Ready to adjourn, yes.
All right, Mr. Chair.
We are adjourned.